All right. We do apologize for the technology issues. So let's get started. I just wanted to review that we do have authority to hold a virtual meeting pursuant to Executive Order number 269, issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th. Executive 6, which extends until November 1st. The TPO may conduct meetings of its governing board and its committees without having a quorum of its members present physically and utilizing communication meeting technology. Some members of the TPO governing board are attending in person, and some members are appearing remotely. Ms. Crom, could you go over a few housekeeping items, please?
Good afternoon, I'm Karen Crom, Senior Transportation Planner. I'm just going to review some go-to housekeeping items for our members that are attending virtually. As most of you know, you can turn your webcam off and on, as well as also your mic off and on. Control, you will on the top right hand side of your screen. Please, however, keep yourself muted if you are not in the middle of placing a comment or submit any questions or comments in the chat box if that's also a control. Motions will be taken both verbally and via chat box today, and the members that are attending virtually will actually be roll call voted. Please excuse the slide. Please silence all cell phones and other noise-making devices, both in person as well as also virtually. And I will turn it back over to you.
All right, Ms. Hickman, could you ensure that we have a quorum present? Allender?
Here.
Bailey?
Present.
Forrester?
Here.
Jordan? Robert Jordan? Commissioner Lober?
Lober is here.
Meehan?
Here.
Minus? Here. Nolan?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Jake Williams?
Here.
Skip Williams?
Here.
Young?
Here.
Capote?
Here.
Thank you. And I acknowledge also Ms. Koss. Here. We have quorum. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is public comments, and let me give you a brief description. Any previously written and verbal comments will be read out loud for the record. Any attendee may submit a comment via the webinar question chat box, which will be read out loud. Those attending the webinar that are registered may also request to speak by raising the hand or submitting a request via question chat box. When called upon by the chair, staff will unmute and then you will make your comments. Anyone who submitted a comment prior to the meeting on the agenda item, the comment will be read out loud for the record when the agenda item is discussed. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And I do have one that signed up, and it's Mr. David Linderman from Brevard Public Schools. Mr. Linderman, have 3 minutes.
Is there a microphone? Can everybody hear me?
Okay.
My name is Dave Linderman. I'm Director of Planning and Project Management with Brevard Public Schools. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about your public schools. I want to specifically talk about where Brevard Public Schools has been with our sales surtax initiative, which was approved by our voters 6 years ago in response to some critical issues and needs that were facing the school system at the time. Currently, we face the reality that the surtax ballot initiative is coming to a close. The initiative has made significant progress, especially with school security, updating educational technology, and renovating school facility infrastructure. But there's still a lot of work to do. The community has an important decision to make on November 3rd to renew or not the initiative. Brevard Public Schools wants to make sure that we have the opportunity to educate and inform the community so they understand where we have been as a school system, where we are today, and the future for Brevard Public Schools. The superintendent, Dr. Mark Mellons, is happy to give a comprehensive presentation and answer questions at your public hearings or any other community group gatherings that you know of. Please call his office if there's an opportunity for scheduling a speaking engagement. With the surtax renewal, Brevard Public Schools makes a relentless commitment to our community on transparency. The ballot initiative is developed with a data-driven approach. The facility assessments validate the needs, and we make those assessments available to anyone who wants to review them and understand what they say and how things are being prioritized. The itemized list of investments is already published on our website, school by school, facility by facility, so the community can understand exactly where the dollars will go. Our website and summary information is provided in the flyer that you received. Please feel free to share this with your constituents or anyone else who's interested in the initiative. So in November, our community, every one of us as Brevard residents, has an important decision to make in consideration of the future of Brevard Public Schools and the opportunities for our kids with the renewal decision of the half-cent sales surtax. Understanding that Brevard Public Schools will continue to commit to all of the things we did 6 years ago when our community entrusted us with this responsibility. We will acquire no new debt with the initiative, holding true to our original commitment. We will continue with the independent citizens oversight, and we will continue with the external audits that we've done 9 times already, going on 10. I appreciate you listening to me speak about your public schools, which is serving our kids and the future that we have together. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Linderman. Commissioner Smith.
You have a tally of what the gross number is for the 6 years? How much money has been raised?
So the projected amount of sales surtax that we expect is approximately
Up to date.
up to date. At the latest tally, I think we're at 265 million over 6 years. That's where we're projecting the full assessment. We're projecting future to be about 40 million a year with COVID and such. But hopefully that number's low and we're able to do additional improvements if it's higher. But we want to be conservative and we don't want to overpromise or overcommit.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Okay.
All right. Very
Thank
good.
you very much.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairman,
Oh, yeah.
I'd just like to make one comment.
Oh, okay.
Last night, the Rockledge City Council unanimously endorsed the school board's proposal for the continued half-cent sales tax, and I would encourage any other cities who are interested to do so. We're going to support it by doing some things like posting on our social media and so on and so forth to try to get the word out that we feel this is a worthwhile endeavor. So I wanted to throw that out there in case anybody's interested.
All right. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Forster. All right. Very good. All right. Next is reports. Executive Director's Report, Ms. Georgiana.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you both virtually and in person this afternoon. I just wanted to give you a few updates on some things that are happening currently. But first, I wanted to recognize our chair, Mayor Kathy Meehan. This is officially her last meeting on the governing board. She was first elected to serve in 2006 and has served as the secretary and the vice chair. And most recently in 2016 elected the chair of the TPO governing board. So Madam Chair, we just wanted to say thank you for your steadfast leadership. You have always been so involved and present in your representation of the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization over the past 14 years. And we could not so happy that you have been a part of this organization. You have really elevated us. And so you've been at the forefront of policy and funding so many important transportation projects for the Brevard County planning area. So this is just a small token of our appreciation, and we just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And
It's
I
been a
think
pleasure.
Councilmember Young and
Oh, okay.
Linus would like to say something, and then we'd like to maybe hear from you as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Georgiana.
Thank you, Kathy. I just want to say you've set an example of excellence. All the meetings, I mean, this one included, but I see many others, and you have set an example of excellence everywhere you go. I'm so proud to know you, and I'm so glad that you've been here as long as you have, as you have been. So I thank you very much. And I would love to give you a hug, but I can't. So.
Thank you, Andrea.
Oh,
Do elbows.
Yes, to my mayor and the chair of Space Coast TPO, on behalf of the executive officers of the TPO, we can't thank you enough for everything you've done. You are a wonderful person. Your heart is pure as gold, and you have your organizations and we can't thank you enough. I know you will be greatly missed. We cannot step in these because they are just dynamic. But on behalf of the TPO, we'd like to give you a little token. We can go by dark side, get your box, or maybe McDonald's. But we just want you to know we love you and thank you for everything.
Oh, thank you, Yvonne.
Thank
That's so
you.
nice. Very good.
You're welcome.
Oh, well, I want to say thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure. It's been an enjoyment to be part of the TPO and to serve the citizens all of Brevard County. So we've done a great job. So thank you. And Georgiana and your staff, they are wonderful. So it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, and so on that note, I know this is a big election year for us here in Brevard County, and it is possible we may be losing a few of our members. So I just wanted to say how much we appreciate and value everyone's leadership on the CPO governing board. You are responsible for our success. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. So the other item I wanted to mention, we have received a request to consider pushing the time of our governing board back 30 minutes from 1:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. And of course, we understand you all have jobs, you're elected officials, and you have very busy schedules. So we're trying to accommodate as many people as we can. So we're approving the 2021 calendar in December of this year. So wanted to get your feedback on that. We don't necessarily need to vote, but is everyone agreeable with pushing the meeting back to 2 p.m. on Thursdays, or does that pose another problem for other folks? Any feedback on that? Any comments?
Any feedback?
Did someone say why they wanted to change?
Schedules. It was making it very difficult for her to be a part of the meeting. She was missing a lot of the meetings.
Commissioner Pridgett requested.
Oh, well, I just certainly want her here.
Yes.
Georgiana,
Yes.
what time do you use?
It used to be at 9:30 in the morning, which a lot of folks really enjoyed that time. But it conflicted with the CFX board meeting, which is the reason why we moved it.
I'm the only one that goes to CFX, so you're only inconveniencing me. If everybody else can make 9:30, it would be.
Now, I will say about a year ago, we considered that because we did have a few requests. Why can't we just go back to 9:30 in the morning? So about a year ago, we sent out a survey because we gave all the members 2 times, 9:30 again. And I think it was 3:30 at that, or no, excuse me, 1:30. And overwhelmingly, everyone selected 1:30 in the afternoon. So although it was great at one time at night, it seems as if people have gotten used to the afternoon schedule. So, you know, it's difficult because everyone's just so busy. But if everyone is in agreement, we could start it at the December meeting and then just adopt the new calendar.
Wait,
Right
we do
there.
a survey again.
We could do a survey again,
Did they change?
because I will say, when we did the survey previously, some of those members are no longer on the TPO.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and the other, yes, that was my next point. I think it would be wise for us to do another survey. So we will work on doing that. We don't meet in November, so we have a little bit of time, at least to start out the 2021 year, kind of get a feel what fits everyone's schedule. But the other thing I wanted to mention, for the December meeting, the Melbourne Chamber Board Retreat is scheduled on the same day as the TPO Governing Board, December 10th. We've asked to be panel for infrastructure, but more importantly, I'm concerned that a lot of the members are going to want to attend the Melbourne retreat, which is going to be at the Rialto Hotel. It's an all-day retreat. So we were thinking about moving the December meeting from Thursday to Wednesday, which would be December the 9th. So we wanted to give you a heads up about all of that. But I think it would be wise for us to do another survey to start out the 2021 calendar year before we adopt it in December, to see what is the best day that fits everyone's schedule. That sound good? Okay. All right, we will do that.
Excuse me, you plan on changing the December meeting, just thinking about it?
I think, well, as far as the Melbourne retreat is concerned, I will leave that up to you. We could actually put that in the survey as well. I know that in the past, there have been a lot of members that attended the Melbourne Chamber meeting. So my concern is that we're not going to get no local commissioners, I think, attend the meeting at times.
Can't you just arbitrarily deciding that? I mean,
Yes,
change it from Thursday to Wednesday.
yes.
In other words, just make an executive.
Yes, we could. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up, because that is probably on everyone's calendar. So that date would be December 9th at 2 p.m. And Lisa has already checked, this room is available. So December 9th, which is on a Wednesday at 2 p.m., we can go ahead and do that. Now for the 2021 calendar year, I like Commissioner Smith's idea. We will go ahead and send out a survey and just give all the members some options about what makes sense for the time on the second Thursday in 2021. Okay, sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you. Just a couple more items. In celebration of the National Community Planning Month, FDOT's Office of Policy Planning has announced a Transplex web series, and it's a series of webinars every Friday in October. There's a link provided on the director's report, and there's just a wide range of topics. We wanted to let the members know that you may avail yourself of these free webinars on Friday mornings, and there's topics from everything from resiliency to broadband technology. So we wanted to let you know about that. October is now National Pedestrian Safety Month. It's the first federally designated month-long pedestrian safety awareness event. October is also a National Walk to School Month, and we encourage all of our local schools to participate in this effort. The Florida DOT recently completed an analysis on the linkages between transportation investment and economic performance. It's called the 2020 Florida Macroeconomic Analysis Report. And of course, this was pre-COVID conditions. But as we know, there's an estimated $4 of economic benefit for every dollar spent on transportation. So the report and the supporting documents are provided in that link on the director's report. It's a lot of really good information if you'd like to take a look at that. You know, this just really affirms that Florida is a good investment for a transportation stimulus package, and we can help with economic recovery if that happens to come our way. And so, you know, that is something that everyone needs to keep in mind. And then finally, the last item, I wanted I provided a letter in your package to DOT, and it's recapping some discussions with the TPO's transportation subcommittee. And it's regarding the surface transportation program, specifically the urban attributable funding, which is our SU and our TA federal funding that the TPO receives. And this is for the first 3 years of the work program between the fiscal year 22 through 24. We recently discovered that the DNP programmed some projects using the TPO's federal funding without consultation to the TPO. So I don't have to tell you how alarming that is to us. And we have discussed this with our transportation subcommittee as well as the DOT staff, including the secretary, as well as the other MPO directors in the district, because we wanted to make sure we were all on the same page and that we understood what was happening. But you're going to hear a little bit more about that in the coming months, because we think it would be very prudent for the TPO to develop a formal policy on how this money is going to be used in the future. And that is a that the TPO government should have direct authority over. And so, you know, we have made it very clear to our DOT partners that we need better communication and transparency when it comes to any decisions that are made on behalf of this organization. So I just wanted to let you know about it. As we move forward, you will be hearing more about that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Georgiana. Any questions for Georgiana on 4A? All right. 4B is the Technical Advisory Committee Citizens Advisory, is what known as TAC-CAC report. Jana.
The TAC-CAC met on Monday at your place or in your handout box. Virtually, you'll find a summary of actions and attendance from the meeting. Both of the committees recommended that the TPO approve the consent agenda, the Vision Zero action plan, and the 2021 legislative policy positions with 2 minor adjustments or amendments that we will discuss when we get to the legislative.
All right, thank you, Georgiana. Any questions for Georgiana? I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Commissioner, I have a motion for approval of 4B by Commissioner Allender, second by Ms. Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. All right, 4C is the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Advisory Committee report, and that is Sarah Crump.
All right, good afternoon. I have a very short and sweet report. The Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee did not meet in September. So you do have the August minutes that are reflective, they're draft minutes, but they reflect the report that I did last month. They will be meeting on October 26th. And the only other news I have in trails is there's a small gap that was filled in Titusville of the Coast to Coast Trail. So now you can get with from the Volusia County line to the Memorandum National Wildlife Refuge,
Wow.
which is very exciting. So
That is.
that's all I have to report today.
All right, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Next is 4D, the Florida Department of Transportation report. And this is Kenya. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
Nope. Good afternoon. That's actually pretty good. I'm Rakenya Henson, and I am here to represent the Florida Department of Transportation, District 5. Very, very brief announcements for you this afternoon. The first is in regards to construction report. You have that in your packet of information. The next is a mention of a safety project that's actually scheduled to start to in the Space Coast region in the fall of this year, 2020. The safety improvements will take place on State Road 518, and that's from Mosswood Drive to Stewart Avenue. It's basically to improve the safety at the intersection of West Ugale. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
O'Galley.
Ugale, thank you, Boulevard and Mosswood Drive, and that's in the city of Melbourne. The project will widen the south side of Ugale Boulevard to construct new eastbound and westbound left turn lanes for those that are making turns onto Mosswood Drive. We are expecting lane closures between 7 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. to avoid any distractions during the normal business hours in that area. The other announcement or the other report that I have is that the department has resumed public meetings. Right now, we've been doing a hybrid format that includes both online and in person. And we will continue to do that because it's been going very well. At this time, we do not have any public meetings that are scheduled in the Space Coast region for the month of October. But if there's anything that comes on the calendar, we will make sure to make that advisement to this committee. And lastly, we want to make mention of the work program public hearings that's scheduled for the week of December the 7th through the 11th. All of the documents for that work program public hearing will be posted to our website. The actual public hearing will take place on December the 10th. And at this time, we're still working on the details for that meeting, but we will share them as soon as the time comes, as soon as they become available and as the date draws nearer. Those conclude my announcements on behalf of the district office, but I am available for questions and or comments.
All right, thank you so much for that report. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, you did a great report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so next is the consent agenda, Georgiana.
I'll read the consent agenda and you can consider passing in one motion. Approval of the governing board minutes of September 10th, 2020. Committee appointments, a work order for the TPO's Transportation Resiliency Master Plan, a memorandum of understanding of regional operation for the Transportation Systems Management and Operations, authorizing the TPO Executive Director to execute the final document. That is the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Georgiana. I need a motion for approval. All right, motion to approve the consent agenda items A through D by Mayor Williams, second by Ms. Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And aye, the motion passes. All right, action items 6A, adoption of the Vision Zero Action Plan. And this will be done by Smith and Ryan Cunningham.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Cunningham with Fiddleston Associates. I'm the consultant project manager for the Vision Zero Action Plan. And Smith, the EPO project manager, also our Vision Zero champion. Today, we'd like to provide you with a brief overview of the Vision Zero Action Plan and the Municipal Toolkit. That's before you today for approval. Our team completed the Vision Zero Action Plan in July 2020 with strong participation and support from our Vision Zero Task Force, made up of engineers and planners from partner agencies, law enforcement, employment stakeholders, and engaged citizens. Some of the major issues that we heard throughout the process was the need for better pedestrian and bicycle mobility, addressing distracted driving, speeding, and how we need to focus on telling the stories of our crash victims. For our action plan, we built a program on the strong foundation of these four elements. Leadership, which includes leading efforts towards zero deaths here at the TPO level as well as at the local level. Safer roads and safer speed, which includes the engineering and enforcement side of our efforts. Equity-based education and community engagement for traffic safety. And data-driven and transparent approaches. Our program is data-driven and will continue to iterate as new data becomes available year after year, and we are committed to sharing that data with the public. Some of the plan's focus areas include speeds, particularly the higher speed roadways, distracted driving, inexperienced drivers. We saw that nearly 20% of our fatal and severe injury crashes involve drivers under the age of 25 years old, and lighting conditions on our transportation network. The high injury network. This network encapsulates where the majority of our fatal and severe injury crashes are occurring throughout Brevard County. The network is vehicle, motorcycle, bicycle, and pedestrian modes. So those are the 4 different colors that you can see on this map. In the action plan and on the following slides, we also break down the high injury network by mode so that we can have more focused evaluation and more tailored action items. This map shows the high injury network for the vehicle mode, the segments and intersections where we saw the most vehicular crashes resulting in fatalities or severe injuries. We also noted the top 5 corridors and the top 5 intersections in the action plan. Likewise, this map shows the high injury network for motorcycles. You can see it's a bit more concentrated than the vehicular map was, as motorcycle crashes constitute a lower percentage overall of our fatal and severe injury crashes. Likewise, or similar, this is the high injury network for bicycles and the high injury network for pedestrians. The action plan really comes together at the end with a detailed list of action items for the TPO to undertake in the coming years to achieve the ultimate vision of 0 deaths and serious injuries. The action items are organized into the 4 foundational elements I described earlier, and I'll briefly just mention a few action items under each element. So under leadership, form a Vision Zero steering committee to continue the work of the Vision Zero task force. Continue Vision Zero workshops for engineering, or conduct Vision Zero workshops for engineering, planning, and public health staff, and encourage local agencies to adopt their own Vision Zero resolutions and or action plans. Under safer speeds, work with FDOT and individual cities to implement best practices in setting target speeds and speed limits. Evaluate resurfacing projects to identify opportunities to incorporate complete streets elements and other safety countermeasures targeted toward the vulnerable road user. And encourage enforcement efforts on the high injury network and provide data to law enforcement to help them focus on the dangerous behaviors identified: speeding, distraction, and impairment. Under education, continue traffic safety programs targeting diverse populations, deliver education packages for new designs or new traffic control devices with a focus on pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, and with the impending arrival of passenger rail, deliver rail safety messages for all users. And finally, data-driven approach, transparency, and accountability. Maintain a safety dashboard, safety program, and Vision Zero web pages, and incorporate the high injury network into the annual state of the system report and produce an annual safety report. With that, I'll hand it over to Ken to talk about the municipal toolkit.
All right. And before I explain to you a little bit about the municipal toolkit, I do want to take a second to thank Ms. Minus, Commissioner Lober. A few of you have cameo appearances in our action plan. We appreciate those quotes. We definitely think that really added something to that plan when we actually saw that. Thank you very much for your contribution. So the document in front of you is actually the TPO's blueprint, our guideline, the things that we think we can do to make a difference. But what we've known all along is that we can't do it alone. The TPO only has, so many things they can do to get us to that target of 0. So another piece of our plan is we've developed a municipal toolkit, something that all of our agencies can take, and they can come to where we are today and adopt their own plans and help us get to that all-important number of 0. So in that toolkit, and it is a web-based toolkit, but in that toolkit, there are going to be all kinds of items for them: branding materials, marketing materials. There's also, some of you probably saw these already on the website. There was a paid media plan that we ran. that did very well. These were our 5 main graphics. And if you clicked on one of them, you saw them for weeks. So they kept reappearing. They did very, very well, though. Like I said, between Google and Facebook, we got 1.6 million impressions. And I think Google was 1.7 million impressions with these images through social media. And it drove over 11,000 people to the TPO website. So we were real pleased with that. You can see this was an early on snapshot. I think these were some of the, like in the first week, some of the numbers that we were getting from those graphics. And these are all in this toolkit and available to the municipalities as well. Also in there, they'll have flyers and print, items that they can just plug and play, basically put in their information to be able to put out. Tools like press releases, resolutions, copy of our action plan in there. Things they need to make it work, the timeline. Again, the data that Ryan talked about is in there specific for their areas, and all kinds of different resources to help them along. Again, I said it's web-based, like we talk about Ms. Minus, and there she is. The quotes also scroll across the top of the toolkit. This is not active yet. We were waiting for adoption, but all of the materials I just mentioned will be on this web page. This is also the first public appearance of this cute little thing that you have. They're limited editions. You can pass them on to somebody that might use them or keep them yourself. But as you see in there, actual on the bottom of this, the QR code will be live to this web page so that you can scan it with a phone or an iPad and take it to this page. And the little USB, which is in the shape of the key, for the key to driving down fatalities, also will take them to the website. And these will be given out at our October 30 meeting, where we'll be talking to planners and those kind of folks from the agencies. But as we talk about numbers and stats and all of that kind of thing, this is what Vision Zero is really about. A good many of us don't have to go very far to find somebody that we know that's been affected by a traffic crash. For us, we don't have to leave the walls of our office. And also I'd like to introduce, he was one of our task force members, and we're gonna bring him in virtually here, Mr. Bob Cooper. He is a community member. Like I said, he served on the task force, and I would like him to share his story with you as well.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, thanks. Bob Cooper here. Part of my charge for this presentation was to help put a face on the situation, a personal touch for these crashes and crash victims. We aren't just statistics, we're people. At some point in time in school, I was taught to, in a presentation, to try to attract the audience's attention early on. Next slide. All right. Well, this is me, March 12th, 2014. After the first trip to the operating room, 1 of 7, 17 days in ICU, 23 units of blood products, then 3 weeks in a neuro rehab hospital. So obviously this wasn't just a skin knee and some road rash. I'm fortunate. While I was on a bike, struck from behind from a car in a 45-mile-an-hour speed zone on A1A, just north of Sebastian Inlet Bridge. I rode that route 3 days a week for years and years and years. I obviously survived. According to speed statistics, that's really only in about the 20 to 25% range based on vehicle speed. I call it fortunate. I really don't like the term lucky. My survival depended on excellent trauma center care. The first responders work too hard and are too good at what they do to call it lucky. Fire and EMS station number 65 is 4 miles north of the Inlet Bridge where I was hit. They were on scene within 10 minutes. They converted it to a trauma alert, which instigates a number of different protocols for transportation and care. 2 large bore IVs were started. I was on a backboard, a C-collar, cervical collar. Maintaining my airway was difficult. The way my face is broken and, shredded. Fluid resuscitation. I was flown to Holmes Regional Trauma Center, where, again, fluid resuscitation, vasopressors, which are like epinephrine to support your blood pressure, blood products, and then emergency intubation because they were losing my airway. Support for these first responders is important and vital for trauma victims. Next slide. The anatomy of a crash. I think road design really does make a difference, and that's part of the Vision Zero process, obviously. Next slide. This is A1A looking south. That's Sebastian Inlet Bridge at the very top of the road. You can barely see it. And that's just a tape measure I set out. There's about 24 inches if it's not filled with sand. And obviously that's not much of a shoulder or a bike lane, in spite of the fact it's the only north-south road on the barrier island. Next slide. This is now looking north, same side of the road. We're in Indian River County now, and that's Sebastian Inlet Bridge at the top. And there's about 4.5 feet of shoulder there. Still not ideal, but better than other areas. The sidewalk is really not an option. The sidewalk over there is, that's for like beach cruiser speed. You can't ride at a real speed on that sidewalk. There are too many driveways that come out. People don't look when they're coming out of the driveway. You're just likely to get hit by a car coming out of the driveway, but it is better. I personally know of 6 cyclists that have been hit on their bikes in the last 6 years, all with various injuries. Anyway, next slide. The Sebastian Inlet Bridge, and I'm not picking on this bridge in particular, but just, again, it points out that road construction or design is important. There's a state law, which is the only law that the guy who hit me got cited for, is you're supposed to give a cyclist 3 feet of distance when you pass them. It's physically impossible on this bridge, if there are cyclists coming in both directions, cars coming in both directions, for that to occur. It's not wide enough. So road design does make a difference. Unfortunately, even with that, we can't necessarily prevent all injuries or crashes unless further changes are made. I had all safety equipment, 2 headlights, 4 flashing LEDs on the back. I lit up like a Christmas tree. Again, I rode this route 3 times a week for years. Comments made to the FHP, this may have been a distracted driver as well. He mentioned he saw me from a mile away and then looked up and couldn't miss me. Looked up from what? His phone, his radio, something. But anyway, next slide, please. This is just a diagram from the accident report. I'm non-motorist 1. Vehicle 1 is the minivan that hit me. Nowhere on the report is, and I limited to this because there's personal information about the person who hit me on the other pages, and that does not need to be broadcast anywhere. So that's why it's limited to this page only. forgot where I'm going with this one. Oh, the report asks about alcohol consumption, everything else, but doesn't mention anything about was the person a distracted driver. Maybe that's changed at this point in time. Maybe it's on the accident reports now because this was 6 years ago. Maybe that comes out if there's a civil suit. I don't know. But there's been only been approximately 4,000 distracted driving citations handed out in the state of Florida in the last year since it became a primary offense. There were 33,000 DUI citations in the same period of time. I don't know about you, but I see a heck of a lot more people on their phone than I worry about being DUI driving around me. Maybe because that's because I'm not out driving at 2 a.m., but I see a lot more people on their phone. The other thing that I was asked to do is to try to describe how this crash of this type changes your life. It's almost impossible unless you had a movie, you can see what I could do beforehand and what I'm limited to now. I'm fortunate I'm alive. I wasn't paralyzed the way my back and neck were both broken in multiple places. But everything is reduced. Everything is restricted. Some things heal, some things don't heal. These present problems even with activity of daily living. Anything that is the least bit more physical, it becomes difficult, and you just have to limit yourself. Other thing that's pretty significant is loss of career, loss of employment, loss of income. Either the acute hospitalization or the recovery may lead people to job loss and unemployment. Chronic limitations will lead people to unemployment. I was an orthopedic surgeon in Melbourne since 1991. The traumatic brain injury and fracture residuals prevented me from returning to work. And it is a long process to get to be an orthopedic surgeon, and it's something that is hard when it's taken away because of somebody else's lack of foresight. Next thing is all that job loss, unemployment, et cetera, leads to merges into this subject, which is the financial disaster this is for people. There are big bills associated with hospitalization of 3 weeks in ICU, et cetera, et cetera. Even with good insurance and copays, the money still adds up. Medical bills are the cause of bankruptcy for a tremendous number of people. Only approximately 40% of the people in the U.S. report that they can handle a $1,000 medical bill, unexpected medical bill. This event, it goes way over that. Approximately 25% of drivers in Florida do not have insurance, even though it's required by law. They let it lapse. They don't have insurance. And if you're injured by one of those people, you don't stand a chance as far as any kind of recovery, primarily. Personal injury lawyers are going to be not going to be very interested. So it's not a good situation. I went to Tallahassee once in 2015 to testify in the anti-texting before it became a law. I didn't get called. Everybody who was there was a family. Everybody else who did was a family member of somebody who was deceased. Again, I'm very fortunate, but a successful Vision Zero program could make a tremendous improvement for a lot of people. Thank you. Oops.
Mr. Cooper? Yes, well, I just will end that by saying, Dr. Cooper, thank you very much, but each statistic represents a human life. And as Kim said, we can't do this on our own. It's about a culture shift, and it's a lot of different things. It's engineering, it's education, it's enforcement. Everyone has to be doing the right thing all the time. And so we're excited about what we can do on the TPO side. But we appreciate him being so honest and sharing his personal story with all of us. So thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you again, Mr. Cooper. All right, so Ms. Smith?
So today we're looking for adoption of the Vision Zero Action Plan by the board.
All right.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of the Vision Zero Action Plan by Mayor Williams, second by Ms. Minus. And discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Kim. Item 6B, the 2021 legislative priorities and policy positions.
All right.
Georgiana.
So the 2021 Florida legislative session will begin with committee meetings in January and the full legislative session beginning in March of next year. Each year, the MPOAC, the statewide association of MPOs, set policy positions, and we use them to develop our own priorities, and they advocate for us to make MPOs more efficiently. But we've had very few changes, so I would like to just review the different sections and discuss a couple of changes that the Technical Advisory Committee and the CAC suggested. So at their place, you do have the updated version, and there is a highlight on just a couple of the areas that there is going to be an amendment if you approve. There are, the very first section is about funding. There are 5 bullets that are actions that provide greater flexibility and protect funding. The first one is enhancing the local option fuel tax and funding the TRIP program, the Transportation Regional Incentive Program, to a consistent and regionally significant project. The third bullet, which is what is highlighted, the TAC suggested that we should be more clear that we need immediate support for potential revenue replacement for the motor fuel tax, which is no longer able to support the current or the future needs of the transportation system. Whether we're talking about vehicle miles traveled, where the vehicles are fitted with a device that could capture the miles traveled and you pay for it, or you're charging alternatively fueled or in electric vehicles a fee equal to the motor fuel tax, or we raise the sales tax or the gas tax. The committee felt very strongly that from a state level, this is an immediate concern and that something needs to be done. Clearly, we need something done on the federal side as well. And we're hopeful when we do get a new federal transportation bill, that will be addressed on the federal side, because the 18.4 cents per gallon has not changed for decades. So they felt very strongly that we use the word immediate support. So that is the slight change on that one. And the next bold section is on SIS, the Strategic Intermodal System, that allows SIS funds to be used for facilities that relieve the SIS. In other words, Florida DOT allocates 75% of its funding to the SIS. And of course, these are very important projects. They are really the backbone of Florida, I-95, 528, all of our SIS connectors, Ellis Road. But that only leaves 25% in discretionary funding to go around for all the other projects. So, if you are relieving a connector or a SIS facility, then you should be able to use SIS funding for this project as well. The next page, this position provides more predictable funding for transit projects. capital and operating. In other words, it removes the distinction between highway and transit. We shouldn't underestimate the critical role that transit plays in moving people. So it just gives you more flexibility in funding. This has been a priority for quite a few years. The next section on the second page is safety. We have a safety section. Support state legislation that regulates distracted driving by prohibiting handheld devices. That has been a priority for quite a few years. Increases funding to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety awareness programs, facility improvements, and seeks to reduce bicycle and pedestrian injuries and fatalities statewide. We also have a policy position on innovative transportation technology, because cities and states that are proactive in the development of transportation technology, will be better positioned for success in the future. This is a huge safety component as well for the future. And then under an additional position, which is on the third page, we had a TAC member who really wanted to add a position on resilience practices in the planning process to protect critical infrastructure using the best available science, technology, and information. As you know, we are we issued a work order for our Transportation Resiliency Master Plan. And resiliency in Florida has really been elevated. We just had the 528 discussion at the last meeting. And so it is an important area for here in Brevard County, as well as Florida. So the TAC and CAC both felt that it was worth putting a bullet in here on our state legislation incorporating resiliency more fluidly in the planning process. And of course, then the very last section are the top transportation priorities that are on our priority list. Of course, the Ellis Road widening, 528, the 401 bridges over the Canal Barge Canal, and the 818 corridor. These are all the very top priorities that have been on our priority list for quite a few years. And then the last section is support for all of our modal agencies. The Orlando Melbourne International Airport, 6 connectors, which is Ellis Road, expanding the Port Canaveral's passenger and freight capacity, investing in space transportation infrastructure, and establishing passenger rail in Brevard County. And so these are all the different modes under the transportation components. And we wanted to get your feedback, see if we missed anything, and if you would entertain approving the TPO's legislative priorities.
All right, thank you, Georgiana. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I need a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item 6B by Commissioner Allender, second by Ms. Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item is 7 presentations, the Malabar Road Project Development and Environmental Update. And this would be Jack Freeman from Kittleson, right? Or
That's
yeah,
correct.
okay.
You're right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. You should have a handout. We just conducted a virtual public meeting 2 weeks ago today. This is actually the printed version of the handout that you have that we had available at City Hall. So anybody who didn't get one, there's more outside, and I've got some if you want one.
Okay.
And it provides some of the details that I'll be talking about in this presentation. So the Malabar Road PD&E is approximately 4 miles long. It stretches from St. John's Heritage Parkway to Minton Road. And it is a project that is being done through the local agency program. We commonly call it as a LAP project. It's being administered by the city of Palm Bay. But it will be approved by the Florida Department of Transportation. This is to go through and be able to obtain federal funding for future phases. So therefore, it has to go through that process. I hate reading things during presentation, but this is a requirement, so bear with me. The environmental review, consultation, and other actions required by the applicable federal environmental laws for this project are being and have been carried out by the Florida Department of Transportation pursuant to 23 U.S. Code Section 327 and a memorandum of understanding dated December 14th, 2016, and executed by the Federal Highway Administration and the FDOT. This basically allows for this level of documentation to be reviewed and approved by the Florida Department of Transportation. So we are in what's known as a project development and environment process. You've probably seen it many times. And we have gone through the initial parts of it. We are what's known as the alternatives development and evaluation phase. We presented these alternatives, which I'll show you in just a minute, at the public meeting. After this, we'll go through alternative refinement and doing further engineering and environmental analyses. We will develop a preliminary engineering report and a type 2 category exclusion. Type 2 category exclusion is the environmental documentation required for NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, to be able to obtain project approval. And we will be conducting a public hearing about a year from now. So the project purpose and need is based upon two primary factors with some secondary factors. The first of them is transportation demand. I'll talk about that in detail in just a minute. And also safety, furthermore, in just a minute as well. We'll look at some of the multimodal enhancements, being able to enhance for peds and bikes, being able to enhance for transit, looking at system linkage and looking at connecting it into the future St. John's Heritage Parkway when it's extended from Malabar South and around to Babcock. And also going through what we call planning consistency. And looking at it, this project has been approved to do the PD&E study. It is contained in your long-range plan, so it's in part of that. But the next phase, which is final design, has not been funded. For us to be able to go through and obtain approval of the environmental document, the project does need to be contained into the 5-year work program and funded for final design. So going back to traffic and looking at traffic, and what you see here are two different traffic numbers, a 2020 volume and a 2050 volume. In short, basically what we'll see when the St. John's Heritage Parkway is connected, that's part of this traffic, that the volumes will generally double along the corridor. And we've gotten a few questions, so I'll just go ahead and address it now. You know, to the east of Minton Road, you'll see Malabar Road is 23,000 for both 2020 and 2050. That's the result of connecting into St. John's Heritage Parkway. And the diversion of traffic you get through the network as a result of that parkway being connected and providing a better opportunity to connect to I-95. So one of the things we're saying, if this roadway stays at a 2-lane facility in 2050, the facility would operate at between level service E and level service F. Levels of service are like grades in school. F is failing. So, you know, give you a good picture of that. From a safety standpoint, we are seeing crashes increase over the last 5 years, and looking at that trend up, that's the green line that you see trending up. We have fortunately not had any fatalities in this corridor over the past 5 years, but we are seeing a slight increase in injury type crashes, and that has been on the increase as well. So I mentioned we're looking at two different alternatives here and studying two different alternatives. And the first one is what we describe as alternative A, but more importantly is what we know as the minimum right-of-way alternative. And that is following Florida Green Book, which is for used by cities and counties as we go through and implement transportation projects. So it's a different criteria than what the Florida Department of Transportation uses on the state highway system. And as we go here, we've got two different typicals here. This one's approximately 90 feet. This is to the west of the C10 canal. And the basic difference is west of the C10 canal, you don't have, oh, what am I advancing for? Let me go back, excuse me. Okay. So west of the C10 canal, you do not have the C20 canal here. So it's a little less right of way because of the canal's presence and the need for guardrail to protect between the shared use path and the guardrail or the canal. We have a 10-foot shared use path, 2 11-foot lanes. One of the big differences, this is a narrower median, a 15.5-foot wide median. The sidewalk on the south side of the road is right up against the back of the curb and is pretty tight overall fitting in to be where the difference here is about 3 feet of difference, and that's because of this guardrail there. So if we go to the next one, alternative B, we look at it, the median is increased to 22 feet. So we've got a little bit wider median. This helps facilitate, with the median, we're going to have U-turns. A lot of driveways coming into Malabar Road, we're going to have U-turn movements. So that allows for that movement to happen a lot better than a 15.5-foot wide median. The other major difference is this 4-foot grassy strip, just setting the sidewalk back off the roadway a little bit more comfort for the pedestrian in the sidewalk and being able to do that. So those are the two major differences between the two different alternatives we are studying. Let's get in there. There's one other difference that we're looking at as we go through that. We are looking at the use at major intersections, traffic signals, and roundabouts. We are comparatively evaluating those at 5 different locations along the corridor to see which is better. We may say, okay, at this location, we're going to use a traffic signal. At this location, we're going to go with a roundabout. We can mix and match, set up to do that. So it's individual decisions at each of the 5 locations. So you see here, we got the no build. All this is cost and breaks down the cost. For traffic signal, well, let's compare the alternatives first. Alternative A, basically 83 or 93 million. And alternative B, 85 or 96 million. Like 1 to 2 million difference by having the additional width of right of way and being able to provide for that. Not a significant difference in cost between the two different alternatives. Where you see the significant difference in cost is roundabout and being able to do that. And because of roundabouts and the footprint that roundabouts have, particularly to the west of the C10 canal, we're having to go into the C20 canal to be able to do it, to be able to keep the alignment right. So we're having box culverts, we're having different types of drainage facilities that we're having to put in to be able to accommodate the drainage that's in the C20 canal. So that's really a big part of the additional cost for the roundabouts. Some of the other things we want to consider is, as you look at it, the levels of service here, which are shown in this 4 traffic signals, are generally a little bit worse than what we see for roundabouts. Roundabouts will provide a better overall level of service looking at the 2050 volumes. Also, roundabouts are a little bit safer, by 10% less crashes than a traffic signal and about 45% less of fatal and serious injuries. The real reason of that is because when you go into that circulating roadway on the roundabout, you're going to lower speed. You're going to be doing between 20 and 25 through there. So if you do have a crash, it's going to be less impact, more, less kinetic energy involved in the crash, and less chance somebody's going to get hurt. So, but what we traditionally see with roundabouts all across the country, and that this is certainly showing that. Another thing we're seeing is by simply widening from a 2-lane to a 4-lane facility, and doing that, we will have between a 35 and a 40% reduction in traffic or crashes based upon looking at the future 2050 volumes. So, just simply widening for the 4-lane facility, better access control, better, better separation of vehicles, we gain that improvement. So overall, we're seeing that by widening the 4 lanes, use of roundabout will result in a safer facility overall. We've also looked at some of the other considerations from an environmental standpoint, and we're not really seeing anything significantly from an environmental impact along this corridor, and don't expect any substantial environmental issues as we go through the documentation. So where are we? Well, we just completed the alternative public workshop. The comment period is closed, and we're wrapping up these types of meetings. Pretty soon we'll get into working on the alternative, the preferred alternative, and being able to go through that, evaluate the preferred alternative, and then getting into our environmental documentation for that preferred alternative. We're looking at coming back with a public hearing sometime next summer, and doing the public hearing about a year from now, and completing the project somewhere in the fall winter of 2022. So there is a website, all the information from the public meeting, to include the concept plans, the actual presentations or pre-recorded presentation you can download and listen to. This, voiceover, what we call voiceover PowerPoint for this narrated presentation, is all available at the website. Link there, and there's my contact information. Franklin Nobby with the City of Palm Bay is the project manager for the city.
All right.
So, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any questions for Mr. Freeman? Wow. Very good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next is 7B 2019 State of the System, and this will be Andrew Garrison from Kittleson. The whole crew's here, right? I mean, is there anybody left in the office? Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Garrison, and also with Kittleson Associates. And so today I'm here to present the results of the 2019 State of the System report. So today I'll give you a brief description of the SOS that we conducted for 2019. We'll talk about what the SOS is, why we conduct the SOS, look at the countywide trends we saw in 2019, and then talk about the corridor and safety analysis that we did this year. So what is the SOS? Well, it's an annual evaluation of Brevard County's transportation network. We look at roadways, transit, the seaport, airport, and spaceport, and this helps us monitor safety or transportation metrics like safety, mobility, congestion, freight, and tourism. So why do we conduct the SOS? Well, it provides technical guidance to the TPO, and it helps identify where federal and state dollars should be spent. So moving on to the countywide trend summary. One thing I want to note again, this is the 2019 State of the System report. So while COVID-19 has had a major impact on Brevard County's transportation network, that's not shown in this year's, in the 2019 report. When we do the 2020 report next year, we'll see those impacts there, and we'll discuss that then. So moving on, first thing we see is in 2019, we had the highest countywide population growth since 2005. This also corresponded with an increase in traffic volumes on Brevard County roadways. Now, we did see an overall transit ridership decrease of about 15%. We talked with Space Coast Area Transit about this. They identified a couple trends, some general like lower gas prices and an increased use of rideshare services like Uber and Lyft that might be contributing to that. Additionally, last year we did have Hurricane Dorian, and that shut down service around Brevard County for several days. So that may be playing a factor or role in that as well. Finally, we have the Melbourne International Airport, and we saw a 10% increase in passenger volume from 2015 to 2019. Moving on, we have Port Canaveral, and in 2019, we've seen great trends, a 20% increase from 2015 to 2019, and in cruise passengers, and a 50% increase in cargo tonnage over that same time period. Finally, we have space missions at Cape Canaveral, and that has stayed about the same, a slight decrease in 2019 from 2015. But again, we've had a lot of significant launches over the past couple of years with the Falcon Heavy and manned spaceflight coming this year. Moving on, we have the corridor and safety analysis. Now, this is really the heart of the state of the system report. What we do is we take a lot of the major roadways in Brevard County and divide them up into corridors, and then we're able to look at transportation metrics like traffic congestion and safety on individual corridors, so we can really see how an individual roadway is doing year to year. To start, we have a couple of high-level metrics that we'll get into first. So the first thing you can see is we have a lot of green downward arrows. So we have a lot of good trends for 2019. First off the list is roadway miles with congestion, and that did go down. So that's a trend we hope to see every year. We already talked about the decrease in annual transit ridership. Now, for percent roadways with existing pedestrian and bike facilities, that percentage did go down, but really what's happening there is we added some roadways to the overall network, and that decreased the percentage a little bit. We didn't take away sidewalks or bike lanes. That's just a result of adding some roadways to the network overall. Finally, we have some crash statistics. So one thing I want to note is that these statistics are for Brevard County only, or for the whole of Brevard County, I mean. When I get further into the presentation, we'll have some statistics for just the SOS network, but for right now, this is all Brevard County. But that being said, the trends are good. Annual bike crashes decreased, as well as annual vehicle crashes from 2018 to 2019. Annual fatal ped bike crashes stayed the same, and then annual fatal vehicle crashes went down as well. Moving on, we have our highest traffic volume. So first of all, we have our top 10 roadways for traffic volume. Probably not many surprises on this list. We have Malabar Road, Palm Bay Road, US 1, Wickham Road. Those are usual suspects. They're generally on this list year to year. We also have the top 5 intersections for traffic volume. Palm Bay Road at Hollywood Boulevard is the #1 there. And then on the right, you can also see that a lot of these roadways are centered in southern Brevard County. So that trend stayed the same as well. Moving on, we have some more crash trends. Like I said, that first table was for Brevard County, but now we're getting into crashes on just the SOS roadway network. So we did see a slight increase in crashes from 2015 to 2019. We hope to see that go down in the future. Now on the right, you can see a map that shows the top 25 corridors for crash frequency. And then at the bottom, you can see what the top 3 are. That's US 192, State Road 3 in Merritt Island, and Babcock Street. Moving on, we have a couple more statistics and trends for crashes. So first of all, we have vulnerable road users. That's pedestrians, bikes, and motorcycles. And we saw a 15% decrease from 2015 to 2019. So that's a great trend that we want to see more of. As well as serious injury and fatal crashes. Another good trend there, with 2019 having the lowest number of serious injury and fatal crashes in a 5-year period. Moving on, we have vulnerable road users. Some more crash trends for vulnerable road users. So on CIS facilities, that's I-95 and State Road 528, we saw a slight increase, mostly motorcycle crashes. And then on non-CIS facilities, that's everything excluding I-95 and State Road 528, we had a slight decrease in crashes over the 5-year period. Finally, we just wanted to note that for our top 25 pedestrian corridor list and our top 25 bicycle crash corridor list, State Road A1A had 5 of those top 25 roadways, and that is the most of any roadway. So moving on, we have our highest pedestrian crash corridors. Our top 5 include State Road A1A, Palm Bay Road, US 1, another A1A corridor, and O'Galley Boulevard. And we do have some intersection improvements and a safety project plan on some of these corridors, and the hope is that that will help decrease the crashes we're seeing. Now we have our highest bicycle crash corridors. So State Road 3, Babcock Street, US 192, A1A, and US 1 are on the top of the list here. Also in yellow, you can see where some of these corridors rank for overall number of crashes. So you can see there's some overlap between being in the top 25 for bike crash corridors and being in the top 25 for crashes overall. We do have some intersection improvements planned there as well. And then finally, we have our highest motorcycle crash corridors. So US 1 has 4 of the top 5 corridors, and then we have a Babcock Street corridor as well. And we do have some intersection improvements and a PD plan on some of these corridors. So hopefully that will help reduce crashes there as well. So that is the 2019 State of the System report, and I'd be happy to take questions at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Well, very good. Thank you, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you very much.
All right. 7C is public participation plan measures of effectiveness report for 2019, 2020, and that will be Abby. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm Patty Hemingway and I'm the Public Involvement Officer for the Space Coast TPO. And today I'm going to be talking to you about a new report. No one's ever seen this before on our board or committees. It is the Measures of Effectiveness report of our public participation plan. So this report, it should be noted, it's not a requirement like our public participation plan is. We have to update that every few years. Instead, this report kind of serves as a tool to monitor our engagement tools. And that was a goal of ours in the last PPP update, which was in December of last year. It also serves as a transparent review of how we continue to strengthen our public involvement activities. So here's a brief overview of the different public participation methods and tools that we currently use to engage the public in transportation planning. When it comes to methods of piquing public interest, face-to-face meetings have been a long time standard for many government agencies, including TPOs and MPOs. But of course, recently we've seen a major change in that we have an uptick of virtual meetings now to garner more public attendance and to help with the gap of COVID-19. The ease and convenience of virtual meetings are becoming the new norm, as seen in the success of our 2 most highly attended public meetings this year, both of which were during COVID-19. Our annual open house, which was held in June here, we saw 62 attendees. And most recently, our first public virtual roadway project meeting for the Mitten Road feasibility study held in August, which saw 70 attendees. And then, of course, as our board members, it should be to no surprise some of these tools that we use to engage with our public. And obviously, some of the most trending ones are our website and social media, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is a brief summary of the different public participation methods that we use. And I want to add that this is just a small summary. You have the full report in your package, but I just tried to pull out some highlights. This summary is a quantitative tool, so we're not penalizing ourselves if we didn't meet our marks this year. In comparison, our plans and programs change every year. So as an example, last year we had our bicycle pedestrian master plan update. We held 6 public meetings that saw a lot of face-to-face interaction. This year we're in a global pandemic. Sometimes there are going to be things that we don't make the mark on, but we leave that room for fluctuation. Here's these are just some statistics. I don't think this will come to any surprise to anyone. According to Statista in 2018, Facebook was the most popular social networking site, drawing in 2.23 billion monthly users. YouTube follows behind, and then Twitter a little bit more. The point is that regardless of our organization is on social media, people are talking about us. They're talking about our projects. They're having a conversation, posting, and tweeting about it. So it's really our job as the TPO to steer that conversation, to lead it in the right direction, and most importantly, to tell our story. Social media sites have basically become the new space where citizens are voicing their opinion, sharing their input, and connecting with others. And I thank all of our agencies for that. So here's a quick digital tools overview. These have some numbers associated to them, and the definitions for all are in the report. Our numbers reflect, though, by and far that our public citizens, our committee members, our board members, stakeholders, they want to receive information digitally. That's just the way that people want to consume information now. So, for example, we use Constant Contact to push out our newsletters, press releases, event invites, and more. And our organization numbers are actually higher than the average of transportation industry rates. The average open rate for a campaign from a transportation service agency sits at 15.59% and the click rate at 11.9%. And as you can see in our numbers, we're well above that. So that's really something to be proud of. We've worked really hard to try to see what our members and the committee members and general public want to know about. and it's just continuing to grow. And as for our social media numbers, they start to speak for themselves. When we're telling our story on social media, we don't post whatever we think our audience might like. Actually, most of the time, sometimes they don't like what we post. Transportation fires people up when it's in their community. So the good, the bad, the ugly, we ensure that our content is both relevant and meaningful. The TPO is also taking advantage of different ways to target key audiences by boosting and advertising techniques within Facebook to ensure the public is aware of an important project or plan, such as Vision Zero, and we also did it with the LRTP. We're also exploring a new alternative using Nextdoor in neighborhoods as a community watch for public meetings, and that platform actually was one of the top ways, if not the top, that they had found out about Mitten Road, so it's becoming very useful. And lastly, I kind of be remiss if I didn't touch on how we do engage our underserved or underrepresented populations. The TPO recognizes that not all public citizens have equal access to online public information. So in order to provide equitable participation, we create messages and different delivery techniques with key stakeholders in our community, and we make sure that they are in that dialogue throughout the plan or project. So here's just a small list of some of the ways that we do that, some of the groups that we work with. Not all of them go into detail, this is just a little bit of a vague list, but we always make sure that people along the corridor of a project or something like a master plan, we always make sure that we engage with those underrepresented populations. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Abby. Any questions for Abby? Comments? Very good. Yes. All right, seeing none. Thank you. Next is the 2020 Mobility Week, and it's Abby.
So some of you may know what Mobility Week is, but before we kind of talk about what our events are, for those who are new to the board or kind of need a refresher, we have a little promo video of this year's Mobility Week.
What is Mobility Week?
Say again?
Community.
A week where Central Florida and now all the state of Florida recognizes to the importance of getting out of your car and being mobile in a different way. So that could be walking, biking, taking the bus, anything to kind of bring awareness to different modes of transportation and being mobile. So the TPO has been a part of this since its beginning in 2016. And in the last couple of years, we've partnered with Space Coast Area Transit to jointly raise awareness of both of our agencies' events, but also we've been partnering together as well. So I'm just going to kind of review some of the events that we have planned for this year. So this is just kind of a bird's eye view. I'm going to walk through these a little bit more. But we have some exciting things planned. Mobility Week is always face-to-face interaction. We're on the street, we're talking to people. So we had to be really innovative this year, what that's going to look like to make sure that we maintain some safety guidelines and things like that. So we're just going to walk through some of these. Our first, as Kim mentioned earlier, we're actually kicking off Mobility Week with the Vision Zero Action Plan kickoff, talking to municipalities about planning their parks. We're really excited about that. And on the same day, Space Coast Area Transit will be kicking off their 10 days of trolleys. So for those who don't know, we're going to have trolley service in Brevard again. We're really excited about it. I know Space Coast Area Transit is just thrilled about it. And so they're going to be doing some things to celebrate that. They're going to have a kickoff event on the 30th, and they'll be going to Cocoa Beach in the Cape Canaveral area as well. Service will start shortly after on the next day on the 31st, and then they'll also be doing a social media campaign to raise awareness with the public about the new service. And then, of course, Kim, for our education and safety program, she always is involved. Mobility Week always falls around Halloween. And so we know that was totally different this year. So she is partnering with the city of Melbourne, who is putting on a quarantine, a lean drive-through trunk or treat. And so she'll be handing out some safety goodies that we always do. Halloween is one of the top nights when kids are hit because it's dark, you know, they're wearing masks and things like that. So we always make sure to hand out safety items. So that'll be a fun event to attend. And then we have two things happening earlier in the week. On November 3rd, Election Day, Space Coast Area Transit is going to be offering free fare on Election Day on all fixed routes, which is amazing for our transportation disadvantaged folks. That's going to be a key driver in making sure that those folks have the opportunity to get to the polls. And then on November 2nd, our own Sarah Crom, our senior transportation planner, will be hosting a Trail Talk webinar talking about all the different trails in Brevard. Space Coast Area Transit will also be reaching out to another key group, which is our seniors. Senior Life newspaper has been doing these drive-through events for seniors. Of course, we know expos are huge. This year, again, they're a little different because of COVID-19. And Space Coast Area Transit will be participating in that. I think they're volunteers in motion. And then we are super excited about this event. We have done a few pop-ups for the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. We've done a couple in Satellite Beach. Well, now that the ones are done in Indian Harbor, we are partnering with their police department, and we will be hosting a Stop for Pedestrians event. We'll be waving signs like we did for Stop on Red in August. So we've already had some volunteers reach out. It's seen a lot of interest on social media already. So we'll be doing it in the evening, which is different for us, but that's when the time change happens. So we want to raise awareness about people making sure that they're visible. And then nearing the end of the week, we'll be hosting a Twitter chat on that Friday talking about complete streets and the benefits of complete streets, how they benefit not just motorists, but all users. So we'll be highlighting some key projects. Of course, we have a couple here in Cocoa, Florida Ave, and Peachtree, and the newly constructed Hickory Street. We're excited to talk about that. And lastly, to close out Mobility Week, Space Coast Area Transit will be partnering with the State Fair up at the Space Coast Daily Park, and they'll be offering a discount to transit riders. So that's an awesome partnership opportunity for them. And so lastly, all what we're asking is help us celebrate Mobility Week. You don't have to host an event in your municipality. If something's already happening in your area that we are doing, please help us promote it, or just simply promote benefits of getting out of your car and doing a different activity and getting mobile.
All right. Thank you, Abby. Any questions or comments? All right. Yeah, Ms. Minus.
Okay, thank you. Senator, this is excellent. For the election day pickup from Space Coast Area Transit, will those be from the standard bus stops, or can anyone call to pick up, or?
I'm gonna relate to Terry on that one.
Good afternoon, everyone. To answer your question, Ms. Minus, it is for the fixed route transit service, so it's the standard bus stop. So if a passenger goes out to ride the bus, they'll just have a free fare that day. For the demand response components of our rideship, there's nothing planned for that at this time, but I can find out if there is that opportunity as well, because we typically do demand response service to places like medical appointments and things of that nature, dialysis and things like that, not necessarily to the polls. But I'll look into that and see, and then have maybe Georgiana or one of the TPO staff reply back to that question.
Do you anticipate maybe having a larger crowd that day, pickups, and if so, you're going to have any additional buses on schedule or standby?
Well, this is the first time, so at this point, we really don't know what to expect, being honest. In the past, we've had what are called follow buses to assist with social distancing. So if a bus gets too crowded, we have a second bus right behind it. But we'll have our operators on standby just in case we need additional service. But at this point, we don't know that we'll see higher ridership results.
Thank you very much.
It's interesting because normally normally we call this Transit Thursday, but this year we saw an opportunity to switch it to Tuesday. And I'm so happy that Space Coast Area Transit was willing to do that and be a partner in that, so that we can make sure people have the opportunity.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right. Seeing none, thank you, Abby. Very good. Any further comments or
No,
we're at the end?
next meeting, so we decided the next meeting will be Wednesday, December 9th.
Yes,
2 p.m.
at 2 p.m.
And we will be sending out a poll for everyone for the 2021 meeting time.
Okay, very good. Any other comments? Seeing none, it is, let me get to it, 3:13. I'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Madam
All
Chair.
right, very good. Thank you, everyone.
I want to grab it.